Hello and welcome everyone to another analysis video. So more of an update to an original video I posted back in September, back when Tomb Raider remasters were being announced. Whilst again this is not my usual style of video, I feel it is my responsibility to keep you guys updated. Although I still think most of the things in my original video still hold up. Aspyr have released new information on PlayStation blog which casts a different light on some of the things we speculated about. And just before we do a deep dive, I'd like to say this is really exciting news for me personally. But again, I want to be sort of a healthy skeptic optimist and keep things tempered, not blow things out of proportions, and just maybe with a critical mind take a look at what's being out there. And yes, I do have a hard time letting go of Christmas. Only 11 months until Christmas comes. But there is a day I'm looking forward to even more, and that's Valentine's Day. And that's because of the Tomb Raider remasters. My girlfriend is very understanding, she's a sweetheart. So, without further ado, let's dive into what new information Aspyr have released and what this means for us, but nevertheless, in less than a month, we're gonna find out one way or another how the remasters are gonna turn out. Okay, here we are, PlayStation blog, January 16th, so just 2 days ago at the time of me recording this video. Tomb Raider 1 and 3 remastered, PS4 and PS5 features detailed, new key art revealed. Surprised they're mentioning the key art here at all, because that's not really the focus of this article, in my opinion. But yeah, so the new key art is right here. Now, what I like about this key art is that they use the same model of Lara that they showcased even in the launch trailer. That's more like the FMV-inspired Lara. However, she is touched up to look better, I think, than she will in the game. It's essentially Lara Croft using Instagram filters. That's what this is. But I think more importantly than Lara, the weapons. I really hope this is how the weapons will be touched up in the game, because we've seen the shotgun in the launch trailer, it looked exactly the same as in the original. We haven't seen the Uzis actually, but I hope they are gonna have some touched up models like here. The shotgun Lara is wielding on the left here, in her Tibetan foothills outfit, it looks more like a shotgun from Tomb Raider Anniversary, which was already a remake of the original shotgun. We'll see. Anyway, this is as far as the key art goes. Still, I don't see any belly button piercing, so we're being generous. We're giving you guys time to fix that issue. Just kidding. So Aspyr explains how the seminal classics were restored. Now, important note, I'm gonna take us through the entire article, again, through the source, because there are many articles already out there, but all of them just quote this one as a source and then give their own unique spin, take, opinions, essentially what I'm doing right now, right? And rather than doing an opinion on an opinion, I'd rather do an opinion on the source directly. And as such, I'll just be checking this article, as this is the source of all the new information from Aspyr, and also I'm gonna try and maintain the same structure as the article has and just share my thoughts and feelings about the different points, right? Now, the author of this article, and this will be important later on, is Chris Bashar, Director of Product at Aspyr, okay? And I'll tell you why it's important a bit later on. So, it's been almost 30 years since Lara Croft took her first snowy steps in the mountains of Peru. In about 30 days, PlayStation players will get to re-experience Lara's first 3 globe-trotting adventures with a fresh look and feel in Tomb Raider 1 to 3 remastered on PlayStation 4 and 5. I love how they compare the 30 years with 30 days that we have to wait for. It's actually currently around 28 years. So how did we get here? The story takes us to Austin, Texas in '98. Now this was kind of a bombshell for me and made me have more confidence in Aspyr than I thought when I was just checking their website. A burgeoning video game company, Aspyr launches Tomb Raider 2 on Macintosh computers in '98, the same year that it was released on PC. Aspyr continued with the Tomb Raider franchise until 2003, which is the year of release of Angel of Darkness, because they were launching Tomb Raider 2, so they started with Tomb Raider 2, then they launched 1, 3, 4, 5, and Angel of Darkness, all on Mac. So it sounds like the company has had a lot of experience with these games, and you know, I've never really been a Mac user, and I never looked at Mac as a gaming operation system or something that's really gaming friendly. I'm sure that's changing for the better in modern times than it did, I don't know, 10 years ago when I tried, but guys, if any of you played the Macintosh ports of the classic Tomb Raiders, or heck, even Angel of Darkness, please let me know in the comments what was your experience with it? I'm sure some of you have had the honor to play these on Mac. I actually have no idea, and therefore I'm gonna withhold any opinion. But just the fact that the company already dabbled in ports is, I guess, a good sign. Then again, I don't know if the ports were good or successful, right? So you guys need to let me know. Now, it seems they always want to revisit these titles. Oh, but important caveat, this was from 98 to 2003, okay? This is over 20 years ago. Even if the company had a different name back then, or even if it goes under the same name, Aspyr, I'm not sure. That's different people nowadays. Maybe few people are still around in the company from the same days, but I know it's a new generation of devs working there, right? So, on one hand, the company has experience with the classics. On the other, this was such a long time ago that it might just be not particularly relevant. We'll see. We always went to revisit these titles. We always debated the right approach. For years, we worked through the right balance of preservation and modernization. Very happy they mentioned this, because this is the trickiest thing to find the sweet spot of for all sorts of re-releases, ports, remasters, and that sort of thing. And once we felt we nailed it, we got in touch with our friends at Crystal Dynamics. Now, this is interesting. It almost sounds like the project began before it was really officially approved by the owner of the IP, Crystal Dynamics, and they spent some time working on a minimum viable product or a proof of concept or something like that before even approaching them, and then showing them, look, you can trust us, we know what we're doing, we're gonna get it done, hopefully. So I'm not sure exactly, but Aspyr claimed they put some work in before even approaching Crystal Dynamics. And of course, Crystal Dynamics gave them, yeah, this looks good, go right ahead. Again, this is encouraging information. Crystal Dynamics' vision. As Crystal Dynamics continues to expand Tomb Raider franchise, the timing seemed perfect to reintroduce audiences to the games that started it all. Now, they don't explicitly say it, but I'm willing to bet anything that they're talking about the unification of timelines. This is an initiative that was, I think, announced back in 2019, I think a year after Shadow of Tomb Raider was released. Since then, we haven't really had a mainline entry into the franchise. I know Shadow of Tomb Raider feels very fresh and new to many of us, but it's been almost 6 years ago. That's almost a generation back, right? So it's been ages since we had a game. So we wanted to both honor the foundations of the franchise and make accessible to modern audiences the original games in all their glory. Again, just everything Chris says here encourages me. I still want to be cautiously optimistic, but if what he says here was actually the focus of Aspyr, this is really good stuff. Because one of the biggest problems when I talk to not necessarily just my friends, but also other people who are into gaming, who I've briefly talked to, whenever the topic becomes classic Tomb Raiders, none of them played it. Why? Because of the control scheme. It sucks, in their opinion. Now, I am hardly able to really objectively say whether the control scheme is good or bad. I have spent decades with these games and with their original control scheme, and it's so ingrained into my DNA that it's always gonna feel right for me. But I think what's nowadays more important is how on earth is it gonna feel for new people to the franchise? Because we're no longer stuck in 1990s where we had one computer that could run 3 out of the 5 games we owned, so with each of them we spent hundreds of hours and we learned them whether we liked it or not. This is different. People have access to thousands of games digitally, and they pick their time more carefully, what they're gonna invest in. And the truth is, the classic control scheme of Tomb Raiders has been a pain point for new players for ages. So modernizing it is a step in the right direction. I might not necessarily prefer the modern control scheme, but I think it's good for new players, absolutely. What would the balance of preservation and modernization look like, not just in terms of the control scheme? We call it Tomb Raider 1 to 3 Remastered starring Lara Croft. Yeah, that's the title they settled on. Again, big focus on the Lara Croft franchise, more so than on the Tomb Raider franchise, I feel personally. Now, remasters defined. Within the pre-production, we divided the conversation into 3 buckets: engineering, gameplay, and art. With these categories in mind, we led our conversation in the same order. And I'm gonna maintain the same structure that the article has. So let's start with the engineering. So, performance with pixel-perfect preservation. At the outset, we knew we would use the original source code and engine. Magic can't simply be rebuilt. Again, all the language they use in this article just tells me they hold a lot of reverence for the IP, which again, what's the opposite of a red flag? A good sign, I would say. A critical feature for any updates we made was to allow the users to toggle back to the original look and feel of Tomb Raider 1, 2 and 3. Exactly. I think they are very much aware that they're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. So just make it optional, make it toggleable. That's it. No one's gonna complain by having the option to toggle. Some people are, but honestly, I feel like people who complain about optional features will just find any reason to complain. So this is really good, and they don't really give much information on the engineering. What they say more is, it's a love letter to all our memories of these games, but it's also truly fascinating to see how far hardware pushed in the 90s to make Tomb Raider work. Absolutely, for the first two games it was bloody impressive. With the third one it started to get a bit aged. Technology was really improving so fast in late 90s. Preserving that experience will continue to inspire engineers of today and tomorrow to push games to be more immersive and memorable. You need to realize that Tomb Raider was at the time also considered very immersive, even though it was a third-person perspective game. Why? Minimal user interface. There really was the occasionally popping health bar, only if you withdraw your weapons. There was the oxygen bar when you needed it, and later in Tomb Raider 3 you had the sprint bar. And also you had, of course, the number showing you available ammunition. But the moment you put away guns, or are not dying due to low health, there would be no interface whatsoever. And this again was a very important decision made by the devs to focus on immersion, the sense of isolation in those environments where no one's ever been for centuries or millennia, right? So again, Aspyr seem to be aware of this, and I consider this a good sign, but I think the most important part of the engineering part of the article is we would use the original source code and engine. Okay, so this is not the classic games recreated in some new engine or Unreal Engine or anything like this. This is still the original one. Magic can't simply be rebuilt. Or translated into other words, every gaming engine has a certain feel to it, and the moment you change an engine, it's gonna feel different. And I think we can really feel this in Open Lara project, right? Again, this is an open source Tomb Raider 1 project that's also now being worked on to extend to other classic Tomb Raiders. And it's a recreation of all the levels in perfect detail, but not using the original engine. And already the game feels a bit different. It feels floatier. The jump delay is slightly off. There's just the feel of the game, right? The changes with the engine. So also, as the engine was updated from Tomb Raider 1 and 2, Tomb Raider 2 felt significantly different, most notably higher responsiveness and sensitivity to running jumps. So maintaining the same engine should maintain the same feel. Now what I wonder is if each of these three games will maintain its original build of the engine, or if they're gonna go to use Tomb Raider 3 updated engine for all three, or just some in-house updated original source code engine for all three games. We do not know. We'll find out once we'll actually play the game, right? But the important thing here is that with the same engine, I'm assuming a lot of the original bugs will still be there, which is especially a problem for Tomb Raider 3. Both PC and PS1 versions I found incredibly buggy, which resulted in a few unfortunate deaths for me. But also a couple of glitches, maybe even all the glitches we know and love will still be maintained. Who knows? I mean, speedrunners who do speedruns with glitches will definitely be happy in case that will be the case. And I think really the best example of this is the corner glitch, where you can phase out and teleport vertically anywhere onto the square that you're entering via a corner glitch, which is how you get the large medpack in Palace Midas level in Tomb Raider 1, right? Or actually, fans have finally found a way to reach the unreachable large medpack in the Temple of Xi'an. So I'm curious, but this gives me hope that corner glitches or even running through corners of doors and all these kinds of bugs that we know and love will somehow be maintained, right? And the cool things about these bugs is that these are bugs you intentionally need to, or glitches you need to intentionally engage with, or you can simply ignore, right? So we'll see, but I have high hopes that they'll be maintained. That's the main thing about the engineering goal part of the article. Now, let's move on to gameplay. This is much chunkier. Surprise and delight lifelong hardcore fans. That's been their goal. We had a firm belief that the gameplay of Tomb Raider 1, 2 and 3 is timeless, and with our use of the existing source code, we had every jump, secret, enemy and puzzle exactly as the original development team designed and intended. Again, very important, it seems like all the contents of all 3 games and their expansion levels are maintained here, which is good. They're not gonna just decide, maybe this jump would be better if it'd be more challenging, and do some changes. We've noticed in the launch trailer some changes in the geometry. However, these were purely for aesthetical reasons. These were out of reach geometry, like holes in the ceiling or things like that, right? I'm sure some creative and crafty fans will find a way to reach them, especially if corner glitches will be maintained. But for the most part, the idea is do not change the gameplay, strictly speaking. And I think this is a very smart change, and I agree with this decision. Keep the levels as they were, because this is a remastered re-release, it's not a reboot. For reboots, we should have initiatives like Anniversary, right? Or, I guess, what would we even call them? Reimaginings, I think is the word. So, this should all be maintained. However, when I'll be playing the remasters, I'll keep a close watch if that's really the case. I still have a very old notebook, which is now 12 years old, where I'm keeping notes of every single item and enemy in every single Tomb Raider up to Tomb Raider 3. You can see some of my notes for the Temple of the Cat contents, and I color-coded where every pickup is, where every enemy is. And then I have a whole other notebook with more notes for more video games. It's more recent, but I have here notes. For example, you can see the Citadel level from Tomb Raider 4 and 5, right? Now we're talking about only the first 3 games, but the point I'm trying to make is I'm gonna check if all the item and enemy placements are where they are in the PC versions of the game. Now this is an important caveat because the PS1 version of the game sometimes had different enemy and item placements, or even object placements. I think the best example of this is Tomb Raider 4. When the Lost Library of Alexandria, we would all of a sudden have a missing fire elemental in the PC version. Or in the Street Bazaar level, with the Guardian of Samarkand making a reappearance, some metal crates for him to destroy and us to get the goodies would just no longer be in the digital PC release or even in the PS1 version, but they would be in the original 1999 CD PC release. So there are some version differences in these games. I'm very curious to see when they mention the source code of which versions are they talking about? I think it's most likely we're talking about the PlayStation version of these games, but receiving a proper touch-up, right? We'll see, but I'm very curious about this. So the conversation evolved into how do we surprise and delight these fans, and that's where we started brainstorming additions instead of revisions. Very smart, and make these additions optional, okay? This is very important. Let people customize their experience, whether they're 100% purists or if they just want the new experience or something in between, which I think is going to be vast majority of people, right? And they give us a brief shot of well, that didn't work, and I don't think I can really zoom into this, can I? Nope. So let me go back. And they give us a bit of a sneak peek of what the menu in Tomb Raider 1 Remastered is going to look like. So we can see the gaming console in the distance. I love that the font and the general user interface design is still maintained. And they're switching between modern and tank controls. When they say tank controls, what they really mean are the original controls, right? So I assume there's going to be horizontally inverted look key or swimming tilting. There's of course going to be moving forward means where Lara is facing. Whereas the difference between that and the modern controls is that moving forward will be where the camera is facing and Lara will self-adjust. This is a standard that we're now used to in video games. Tank controls were a thing of the 90s, right? Now again, as I said, for me the original controls are so ingrained into my DNA that they just feel naturally where playing the classic Tomb Raiders. But for new players, I think modern control scheme will be good. Although I still cannot imagine what moving Lara on a grid-based level design will work like with an analog stick, right? I'm not sure how precision friendly the modern controls will be, and that's my only concern, because tank controls are great for precision, not necessarily for speed. We'll see. We'll need to experience that. Another exciting thing is some additional features in this sneak peek over here. Now, they might be in the final build, they might not. I think the fact that they released this screenshot means that they are confident in it. And there's a line that says change controls. I really hope you'll be able to fully customize controls, whether it's going to be the tank controls or the modern control scheme. Please let us change at least the button assignments. This is very important. I still remember the original control scheme for the classics on a controller. Let's use PlayStation 1 DualShock controller, for example. X for action, square for jumping. It was terrible, in my humble opinion. I always would switch X and square because it's much easier on the thumb to jump first and action second, and it makes shooting whilst jumping much easier. So I hope these will be fully customizable. Then walk to action, I'm not sure what that means, maybe these two things sharing the same button. Action indicators. So again, this is toggleable, but for new players this will be great. There'll be probably some on-screen pop-up to show you, yep, you can interact with this, like they did in Tomb Raider Anniversary. But again, this could be interpreted as going against the original design of minimal user interface and immersion, so they did the best thing they could. They allow you to toggle it on and off. You can't really complain if you can customize your experience, and this is great. Vibration, curious to experience those. Maybe I'll give the remasters a try with a controller instead, we'll see. Then invert horizontally, invert vertically. So happy about it because I use invert horizontally when swimming or looking. So this is great, and you can customize sensitivity. I would love to see the change controls screen, but what they showed here gives me hope that this will be a very customizable experience. Now, moving on, what is it they actually say about the modern control scheme? For our modern controller settings, we take inspiration from the Legend, Anniversary and Underworld era of Tomb Raider, so the Crystal Dynamics trilogy from mid-2000s. These changes are felt mostly in the way Lara moves. The right stick has full camera control, and Lara moves directionally based on camera position, right? So this is an important difference here, and let me open this Rock Paper Shotgun article. This was back when this was announced. The remasters include the ability to switch back and forth between classic and modern joystick control schemes, we knew that, as well as camera lock-on for when you're murdering a jungle's worth of endangered species. So, not sure exactly how the camera lock-on to enemies is going to work, right? Because in the original control scheme, when you hold the action key and you are locked onto an enemy, the camera automatically follows them. This was a brilliant and really advanced feature for its time. With a modern control scheme, I'm not sure how that's gonna work, perhaps the same, we'll see. But the important difference between the tank controls and the modern control scheme is moving forward for the tank controls will go where Lara is facing, moving forward for the modern control scheme will go where you, the player, and your camera are facing. That's essentially it. I'm not sure there are going to be any touch-ups to the actual button layout or anything like that, but if it's going to be fully customizable, the doors will open to so many possibilities to make it. And also, I'm hoping for some accessibility settings for people who struggle using controllers or have certain disabilities. No word about that, maybe that's a luxury that I'm wishing for, but we'll see. Okay, just like our approach to graphical presentation, the original are still available to players via a menu toggle, exactly. So they make it a point to ensure the original controls are preserved. Brilliant design philosophy, I appreciate that a lot. Boss health bars. So, one of Tomb Raider's strengths was the minimal UI. They get it. However, this can be frustrating for tougher bosses with massive amounts of health. We added a health bar to let you know if you should swap to the grenade launcher or if you should keep soaking pistol damage. Oh, one caveat, please Aspir, fix the kill count glitch when using explosive weapons. Please allow us to kill our enemies with grenade or rocket launcher and not have our kill count messed up like in the originals. Pretty please. This bug was present in both PC and PS1 version of the game, which drives me mad, and well, if they use the original source code and engine, maybe the bug is gonna make its way there. We'll see. Anyway, appreciate the boss health bars. I would personally take it a step further, and this could again be an easily customizable toggle, but I'm just being hypothetical now, they never claimed to do this. But why not just have health bars to all your enemies? See, the reason I'm saying this, whilst I'm a fan of minimal UI, I have played Sabatu's Tomb Raiders. So Sabatu is a very talented modder from Czech Republic who recreated the entirety of Tomb Raider 1 and Tomb Raider 2 and just finished work on Tomb Raider 1 expansion levels, but making them much more challenging and doing a couple of quality of life features like more complete statistic screens and also health bars to enemies. And seeing your enemies get progressively damaged, you either make it via their model be looking more ragged and weaker and bloodied, or you add a health bar, right? And it really gives you the right kind of impression, just what effect, what damage, heck, what accuracy and spread different govs have if you're shooting a target that has an actual health bar. Without it, it's a bit more difficult to get a feel of how powerful weapons are. For example, I was very grateful in Tomb Raider 4 for the Golden Lara statue in Cleopatra's Palaces, because that was the game's one and only target dummy. The moment you shoot it, you get damaged. So, in a sense, you share a health bar with a target you can shoot on, and you finally figure out how much damage your guns deal relative to one another, right? And I wish this would not just be applied to bosses in these remasters, but to all the enemies, and potentially make it a toggle, you know? You could customize if you want to see it just on bosses, or all enemies, or maybe just not have it at all, right? So, yeah, but definitely a step in the right direction, and just the fact they're mentioning how frustrating this can be tells me, wow, you guys actually played these games. And that might seem very obvious in hindsight, but this is not an industry standard. A lot of the time, developers simply do not have the capacity to properly not even test, let alone play the source material, right, to familiarize themselves. And we feel it in reboots or remasters that sometimes the original idea of what was happening was completely missed. Warcraft 3 Reforged. So, this seems like at least some people on the Aspyr team working on these have had the opportunity to play them and identify what they found frustrating from a modern player's point of view. And again, if you make this toggleable, you're not going to mess anything up. So yeah, definitely step in the right direction. I want to see it for all enemies, to be honest. I'm sure many of you will disagree with me, and that's why I want this to be an option to toggle. That's it. And again, please fix the explosive kills glitch. Now, 3D item sprites replacements. So while the menus in Tomb Raider used 3D models for the health kit and ammo, and even key items in the inventory rings, yeah, the in-game assets were flat 2D sprites. This was a legacy compromise that we've adjusted to give a little more oomph to item pickups. By the legacy compromise, they mean in the original games. They're not saying they're making a legacy compromise. The wording confused me a little. So they're essentially saying that they updated the 2D sprites into 3D models. Now, I'm gonna show you guys something really, really important, which casts a different light on this. So let's see. Tomb Raider Remastered, a launch trailer. I think I referred to the Nintendo Direct one in my original video. So let's do that again. And I want to show you a particular frame which shows that a lot of work has already been put into the games since the launch trailer's release. Okay? Here, let's go to the Great Wall of China, turn off the subtitles, and very soon... Okay, I'm gonna find the perfect frame, because I want to show you that at the time the trailer was released... Okay, you can maybe see it. Now, unfortunately, I cannot really zoom in on this. Maybe, you know what? Let's do this. I'm gonna open up Paint. I'm gonna try and zoom in as much as I can. Do you see it now? It's this. So even in the launch trailer, they were still using 2D sprites. And one of my biggest complaints of the launch trailer was how untouched some of the shotgun models were. Let me, for example, show you the exact point I was complaining at. And I think it was when fighting the Kali statue over here. The shotgun is identical to the original Tomb Raider 3. Now, the same thing at the Great Wall of China, or heck, maybe here on the Skidoo, we can see a shotgun. Let me do another pixelated close-up. See the shotgun here? This is the original model from Tomb Raider 2, not touched up at all. And yet, let's take their word for the new key art revealed. If we look here, we see a new model for the shotgun. Now, this is a promotional art, okay? But I'm really hoping that this is the treatment the weapons have received in the meantime. The same applies to Uzis. So, at least the Jade Dragon, and I assume all the secret statues, have. So, this is a clear proof that by the time the trailer was launched, heck, maybe they already fixed this back in September, but whenever the trailer footage was being recorded and worked on and approved, they didn't yet have 3D sprites, and now they're saying they do. So, either in the past few months, or by the time the trailer footage was recorded, up to now, no matter how many months that was, everything we've seen was probably still work in progress, and this gives me a lot of hope. And you will see later on that the remastered visuals look better than they did in the launch trailer, and that was one of our biggest concerns, and oh my god, I am such a blind idiot. Okay, guys, there it is. This is what I'm talking about. Shotgun model looks beautiful, and it looks, well, I'm gonna zoom out a little. But there it is, and it actually looks like, oh my god, I haven't even noticed first time I read this, it looks like it does on the promotional art. So compare this to this. Do you guys see what I mean? A lot of work has been put into the remasters in the meantime, and this makes me incredibly excited. We were worried we're just gonna get what we've seen in the launch trailer, and I think they really worked on the dynamic lighting as well, as we'll see later on. But yeah, so back to the original point, I'm happy to see them making progress. I really, really am, okay? Okie dokie, and now, oh my god, achievements or trophies or however you prefer to call them. Colored pictures, I guess, could be a universal name. We all love our colored pictures, and some of us are obsessed by them. Those very observant of you may have already noticed I have the Retro Achievements website open here for a very good reason. So, over 200 trophies. This is a big moment for the Tomb Raider community. You know, again, thank you for acknowledging that. So we made sure to pack in as much content as possible. We're excited to say that there are over 200 trophies to earn, including my personal favorite, locking the butler in the freezer. Sorry, Winston. See below a sneak peek of a few you can look forward to discovering. They say below, but they mean above. So, 200 trophies is a lot of trophies. On the other hand, when you think about it, it's 3 games plus expansion packs. It's, I think it's an adequate number of trophies, really. But honestly, if it'd be below 200, I would be a bit disappointed with how much content we are talking about. It's easy to forget how long the games were, right? So I wouldn't say it's extraordinarily huge amount of trophies, but it's an amount of trophies that I think is comfortable and makes me happy. So here we get a sneak peek of how they're gonna look. Now, looking strictly speaking, let me open up Steam. I just want to quickly check if maybe somewhere already published. I'm gonna log into Steam in the meantime, but if we look into True Achievements, for example, this is like the top website for guides on how to collect achievements that are in the Xbox universe, so this also is very useful guide, usually for PC achievements. All we see here in anticipation for the remasters is the marketing blurb you can find on Nintendo eShop or Xbox Shop or wherever, right? So no achievement information has yet been released as per this disclaimer. And the same will actually happen here. Let me check my... sharing my wishlist with you guys. When we look here, we see Steam achievements, but no details. If you click on this, it will just get you to the store search filter. So, with the Steam achievements not yet being available, or the Xbox ones, and we're still not sure if on Switch there will be any achievements available, like they gave a Devil May Cry treatment, making them a separate menu tab within the game once you boot it up. We do not know what they'll look like. they did give us this sneak peek, so we know the art direction that the achievement pictures will have, which I find very satisfying. Sort of an old sepia pictures. It reminds me of the adventures, travelers' journals, you know, think of Indiana Jones or Lego adventures from 1990s, Johnny Thunder and so on. It's very fitting for Tomb Raider, I think, and there seems to be an emphasis on color coding: green, blue, red. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all gonna mean roughly the same kind of action to be taken. Maybe it's gonna have more to do with the game that you're playing. Maybe the Tomb Raider 1 ones are gonna be red, Tomb Raider 2 are gonna be green per the jade. That's a very important material for Tomb Raider 2 and the Chinese mythology, and maybe Tomb Raider 3 will have blue ones, right? And let me tell you why I think that. I'm not sure what the first achievement could be. It's a Polaroid picture, so maybe something to do with Lara's home. The second one shows Natla in her final form and Lara trying to kill her with her pistols. So I think it's going to be an achievement for finishing Natla off with pistols only, not using any other weapon. Secondly, this is a flamethrower wielding Bartoli's henchman from Tomb Raider 2, so I assume it's all gonna be about not getting hit by those flames and dispatching those enemies. Here in the fourth one, we see Lara wearing her Home Sweet Home pajamas, and one of the bosses in the game that we encountered twice in Opera House and as the final boss in Home Sweet Home level. I think this outfit is the one from Home Sweet Home and Lara has her pajamas, so I'm not sure what this achievement will be about. I assume defeating him in some specific way, right? Rather than just for defeating him. Then of course there's locking Winston in the freezer achievement, and Tomb Raider 2 is the first game where you could do that. So again, I think the green ones are for Tomb Raider 2, red ones for Tomb Raider 1, and blue ones for Tomb Raider 3. Why? Well, because they are lasers. Remember, high security compound and Area 51 levels have a lot of laser traps, and probably this achievement, just looking at it, is gonna be either about not triggering some alarms, which was a new mechanic they played with in those levels, or maybe just not touching a single laser in those two levels, something like that. And the one to the right has a zipline. Now, ziplines are extremely rare in Tomb Raider 3. I can't think of a single zipline in Tomb Raider 3, except for the one in the assault course in Lara's home. I mean, I'm in the process of replaying Tomb Raider 3, I'll get more to that later, but... So, this achievement will probably have something to do with Lara's assault course in her Tomb Raider 3 version of Croft Manor, right? So yeah, again, this is my best attempt at deciphering these hieroglyphics, but it's fun to theorize what they could mean. And again, I want to draw your attention to Retro Achievements, a fan-made website where fans are creating achievements for old games emulated via different kinds of software. I'm in the process of playing the classic Tomb Raiders on DuckStation PlayStation 1 emulator, so I've been through the process of playing the old PlayStation 1 versions of these games. Now, just to give you an example, there are 143 achievements for Tomb Raider 4, because it's a huge game, but Tomb Raider 3 just takes the spot. Look at this madness, 162 achievements, right? Now, I still haven't mastered Tomb Raider 3, as you can see I'm in the process. I finished India and Nevada levels, but I want to give you a sense of what to expect, again, like I did in my previous video, but I didn't do a deep dive, of what kind of achievements might be there. So, really the focus, at least from fans' perspective, was on completion, that is, find all the secrets, right? Let's look specifically at Tomb Raider 1 and Tomb Raider 2 and Tomb Raider 3. There's of course an achievement for finishing every level, there are achievements for discovering secrets in each level. These even sometimes tell you in advance how many secrets to expect, which is always nice, although I'm hoping the remasters will have some elaborate in-game stats menu where it will show you in advance how many items, enemies and secrets are there. We'll see. Tomb Raider 2 had the best menu in this regard in that attempt. And then there are achievements for finding some weapons early, right? So for example, get the Uzis in the Sanctuary of the Scion, or get Magnums, if I could just find that bloody achievement. Anywho, moving on, there are achievements for completion, and then Tomb Raider 3 took this to perfection. There are achievements for time trials. So kind of like Tomb Raider Anniversary, you could replay every level within a time trial, just focus on finishing level as fast as possible. This morning I actually completed the time trial achievement for Area 51. It was brutal. And then you have one session pistols only, so no loading and use only pistols, but you're free to pop medpacks. But a counterpart to that is play through a level, not saving or loading, not using medpacks, and finding all secrets, right? This is very difficult. And Tomb Raider 1 achievements took it to perfection. Okay, this is the hardest achievement that I've probably ever had to do in my life. Complete Atlantis, kill all 32 enemies, pick up 50 items, collect all 3 secrets, do not save, do not use medpacks, and use only pistols. My soul still bears the scars of this achievement. Playing through Atlantis, using only pistols, killing all 32 mutants, and not using a medpack is insane. You need to study every single point in the level where you can cheese enemies to an extent, plus be extremely lucky, plus not make a single mistake in an hour-long run. And you cannot just speedrun through the level, you have to kill everything and find all the secrets all in one go. I really hope this is not the kind of achievements that Aspyr will put into the Remastered trilogy, because I would like the achievements to be to an extent challenging, but to make... I think the focus here is, if I'm being completely honest, it's not us, people who have grew up with Tomb Raiders. It's really new people to the franchise. New people who have maybe jumped on board with Crystal Dynamics trilogy or the Survival trilogy, or for whom maybe these remasters will be the first Tomb Raiders they'll ever play. And as such, it would make sense to me, and I would appreciate a lot of the achievements to be less sadistic than do everything and do not save and do not use health packs and use your weakest weapon only, right? We'll see what balance they'll strike, but I would appreciate more achievements being built around very unique circumstances in the level, and I think Retro Achievements Tomb Raider 2 is a perfect example of that. For example, complete the level, we're talking about Barking Monastery, having the monks be hostile since the first encounter. Or, on the other hand, complete the level without killing neither monks nor mercenaries. Like, just different ways you can beat levels, and some of these can even show you some speedrunning tricks or things like that. For example, in the Ice Palace, drop down to the gong without losing half your health. How on earth are you supposed to do that? Well, you get to really learn more about the levels that you thought you know everything about if you watch some speedrunning guides or things like that. Now, I don't think it would be a good idea to make achievements require you to be a professional speedrunner. I respect speedrunners, I have so much fun watching speedruns, but it's something I never want to partake in, and some of these achievements were on the border of you have to do speedrunning tricks to get them. But for example, a good example of an achievement, lock yourself in the jail, leaving the Yetis to wait at the gates, you know? Keep yourself safe from the Yetis in the Yeti cage in Catacombs of Talion, or kill the 4 jailed Yetis using only your pistols without taking damage. Situational achievements like these are, I think, gonna be bread and butter of the Remastered trilogy, or I hope, and gonna make for a fun playthrough. And if the achievements are gonna make you play the levels in a different way, or find out about different secrets, shortcuts, challenges, or heck, even ways to cheese your enemies, I think they would have really done their job well, right? So anyway, just wanted to talk briefly about the achievements again. Now, moving on to photo mode. Exploring environments in Tomb Raider is magical. We want you to be able to share these environments and iconic moments, so we've added a robust photo mode to pose Lara, freeze gameplay, toggle between classic and modern graphics, and showcase these environments. We're super excited to see what the community puts together with these modes. So, personally, I never had the patience for photo modes, but I know it's a fan favorite across all gaming franchises. People love photo modes. They love to take vacation pictures from their video game adventures, right? Now, I'm excited by this, not because of the photo mode itself, but let's take a closer look at this. Maybe let me, zoom in full screen. What we see are different settings that say pose, face, outfit, weapon. Okay? Now, the left button and right button, they seem to switch between edit Lara and edit the picture itself. So they didn't give us a sneak peek of the different filters you can use here, but they gave us a sneak peek of something more interesting, and that's editing Lara's pose in a given picture. Would be fun to edit her pose while she's on a skidoo. So, one of the biggest complaints back when the launch trailer was announced was Lara looking like she always does when shooting at enemies, right? She having her stoic blank face, whereas if you remember in the original games, she would grit her teeth and look really pissed off and angry that some bloke is getting in her way, or usually an endangered species of an animal. And for the longest time, we didn't know if these expressions are going to be part of the game, right? Because in the launch trailer, they never showed any of this, and we could see examples, just like in this frame over here, of Lara shooting and just not reacting to her circumstances, which was worrisome. It even looked uncanny, right? So this screenshot over here makes me think that they have since worked on facial expressions, and angry is the facial expression Lara should absolutely have when firing her weapons, okay? Now, I don't know if this means there'll be more facial expressions. Maybe this face setting is there just to switch between the blank one and angry one, right? And that's gonna be it. And even that, I think, is gonna be perfectly fine. But, you know, it makes you think if maybe there are gonna be more facial expressions for a reason they'll hint at something later on in the article. And probably the most exciting piece of news, and one of the most requested features by fans since the announcement of the trailer, is outfits. Can we please change outfits for Lara? Not necessarily on the go, but when we're starting a level or something like that. Personally, I do not care about this feature. I just want to wear whatever outfit Lara wears in the game, because I find, you know, switching between all outfits of the trilogy appropriate, and I think Lara's choice is usually a good one. But there's nothing wrong with being able to change them on the go, and this is what many of you have requested. And if you can change Lara's outfits in the photo mode, why wouldn't you be able to do it when playing the levels, right? It's just common sense. Because changing the outfit doesn't change anything about Lara's mesh. It's just, well, it does, but not about her hitbox, her placement in the level, or anything like that. And this gives me hope that being able to change outfits in the photo mode will allow you to change outfits in the game, and therefore make a really huge requested feature by the fans available. So let me guys know what you think. Am I just being too optimistic about this? But I really think if you can do it in a photo mode, you should be able to do it in the game. Now, probably it's gonna have to be unlocked via, I don't know, maybe you'll be able to unlock some cheats via finding secrets, like you could in Anniversary and Legend. That was always such a fun mechanic, unlocking and earning cheats, right? I love cheats. They're great fun. Customize your single player experience however you want. So we'll see what implications this will have, but hoping for that outfit swapping feature in the actual game. And now we're getting to a close and a few more surprises. So much of what we love about Tomb Raider is discovery, and we don't want to spoil that. Now, this concludes the gameplay chapter, but I want to go to the original article from September, and a particular paragraph I already covered in my previous video, very briefly, where they try to give you a couple of hints for each of the games. I mean, calling the hints is generous, but this paragraph: continue playing through the game until you reach the final level called Home Sweet Home. They're talking about Tomb Raider 2. Make sure you have collected all secrets in all levels up to this point. In this level, you'll eventually come across Lara's mansion. This level is unique because it serves as a hub world. You'll find a room called the Trophy Room inside Lara's mansion. In this room, you can display the artifacts and treasures you've collected throughout the game. To access Lara's secret treasure room, you'll have to find the switch in the garden maze that opens the treasure room under the stairs. I already pointed out a couple of things wrong about this paragraph. First of all, Trophy Room is in Tomb Raider 3 version of Lara's home. Treasure Room is correctly under the stairs in Tomb Raider 2's version of Lara's home. True. What doesn't make sense is collecting all secrets up to this point. Why? Collecting all the secrets never had any impact on Home Sweet Home level in the original game. All it did was reward you with goodies within said level where you found 3 secrets. That's it. It didn't even unlock a bonus level back then. So what I'm really wondering, and this sounds both exciting but also possibly like some information as it went through multiple departments and multiple people got eventually distorted. Because Croft Manor or Lara's home was never a hub world. It was always a training area you could boot up whenever from the main menu. But here they make it seem as if it's gonna be a hub world for all 3 games, where you're gonna be returning from time to time to see what treasures you've unlocked. Now, this is an absolutely phenomenal idea, but I just don't believe this is what's gonna be the case. I think they're just gonna maintain all Lara's homes from all 3 games, separately accessible from the main menu of each game. Because this would be such a massive game changer, I have a hard time believing that they would keep this as a surprise. What I think is more likely is the author of this article is Matthew Ray, marketing lead at Aspyr, whereas if we looked at the new article, this is Chris Bashar, Director of Product at Aspyr. Now, I'm not entirely sure what Director of Product does. In my experience, it sounds something like a product owner, a PO, when running a project, right? People who are involved with not the day-to-day running of the project, but all features and elements and deliverables of every build and every release a project has. And again, maybe I'm way off, maybe Director of Product is not product owner, I'm not sure. But I'm more willing to put credibility into what the Director of Product says, as opposed to what marketing lead says, right? Because marketing lead usually, and I might be wrong, maybe in Aspyr it is different or was different at the time, but usually they don't have hands on a particular product. They have hands on a pipeline of all deliverable products. So what I think is, again, most likely is that some information from the actual team working on the remasters got carried over to the marketing at Aspyr, and maybe some things were misunderstood in the transition, and that's why they overpromised an interconnected hub in form of Lara's home, where the treasures you'll find across all 3 games will make an appearance. But then, if that's the case, it wouldn't make sense that Home Sweet Home, so finishing the middle game, would be the cutoff point after which you need to collect everything. This just doesn't add up. So, again, this is why I think it's gonna be just like it was in the original, and this just sounds a bit confused. It sounds amazing if it's gonna be true, but I don't think we should get our hopes up about Croft Manor being this interconnected hub. In the best possible case scenario, in my opinion, you would have Croft Manor visitable from across all 3 games, and at least for the first playthrough, depending on what progress you make in Tomb Raider 1, 2 and 3, gradually, and expansions in between, Croft Manor is gradually gonna expand and change. I would love to see that, and possibly that's the surprise they hinted at, because remember, we are still in the gameplay category, but we simply do not know. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there. I don't want to get our hopes up too much, but I just wanted to point out the difference that the original paragraph was written by marketing, whereas this is by the Director of Product, which casts a bit of a different light on, even if it's the same company. What I think would be really neat, and maybe what they're keeping a secret, please, please, please give us unlockable artwork. Please. Have it a reward for secrets, like they did, because they are in contact with Crystal Dynamics, and a lot of the inspiration for modernization was from Anniversary, Legend and Underworld, so I think there is a small chance that by finding secrets we could find some concept arts. And maybe this is one of the small features that they do not want to spoil. It'd be a beautiful surprise, but again, I don't want to set myself up and you guys for disappointment, so I'm just saying this is one of the nice to-haves, but it's not really something that needs to be there for this to be an amazing remaster. Okay, and now we're approaching the finale. So art goal, visuals as in your memory. Or let me rephrase that, their goal was to uplift the visuals, but not make them drastically different than what you remember from what you recently played or what you played all those years back, right? Whenever we were younger, for those of us who played these games when we were kids or just younger adults, and we haven't revisited them in years, we have a tendency to remember them much nicer than they actually are. Why? Because we were impressed by the graphics back then. And whoever at Aspyr made this decision, I'm willing to bet anything, they're a fan and they've played these games. And upon revisiting them, maybe as part of working on this project, they realized, oh, this looks worse than I remember. Oh, this is heavily pixelated. Oh, the draw distance isn't as good as it is in my memories. What's going on? And their goal is really to make it look kind of the same art direction, but better. Once we finalized the engineering and gameplay intent, so they kept it as the final one, I see. It was time to move on to our biggest challenge and changes for the project, the art. Our philosophy here was rather straightforward. We want the games to look the way they did in your mind. We knew we were on the right track in our, this is important, in our early playtests, because some playtesters didn't even know they were playing with modern art toggled on. Now I'm a bit skeptical that these testers were people who played Tomb Raider. Maybe these were testers who never played Tomb Raider, right? I don't think anyone who played Tomb Raiders in the past would be like, oh, these are uplifted graphics? I didn't know. I have a hard time believing that, but maybe they really just haven't played Tomb Raiders in so long and they thought, yeah, this is what it looked like. If yes, then mission successful, if it reflected what they remembered. We've worked hand in hand with Crystal Dynamics on the following modern art updates. Baked and real-time lighting effects. These changes add to the immersion of the mood environment. Now, can I make it? Oh, I can make it a bit bigger. Awesome. We all wanted to see how South Pacific is gonna look, right? So we see the extra foliage, we see a new skybox, we even see the times of the day being reflected in the progression as you move through the levels. This is a shot from Madubu Gorge, which is a third level of Pacific, and the final one is happening, it's a dungeon happening inside a gauntlet of traps before facing the final boss. So it seems to me like Madubu Gorge, they intentionally kept an evening skybox to again show you the progression of time as you're moving through Coastal Village and then Crash Site all the way to Madubu Gorge, right? So I'm hoping that Coastal Village and Crash Site will have noon or morning kind of skyboxes. That would be really neat. Now, I'm happy with what I see. The lighting is better, the atmosphere is better, the mood of the yellow sky. There's something almost Shadow of Tomb Raider about it, and I really like it. And there's of course the extra foliage added into the background. And also on the floor, my god, so much foliage. My concern, however, is that with the new graphics toggled on, everything is significantly darker. And one of my biggest pain points, especially with Tomb Raider 3, and especially with PlayStation 1 version, was how dark it was. Seriously, I'm in the process of playing PS1 version emulated on DuckStation of Tomb Raider 3, so it's brighter than the original release. I have my screen brightness up to maximum, and I played at night with external light sources being shut down so the screen shines bright. It's the brightest setting possible, and there are parts of Tomb Raider 3 where even if I draw a flare in-game, I see nothing. They really, in the original PS1 release, messed it up. So I'm hoping that in the remasters, for the purpose of looking nicer or more realistic, they're not going to make the game as dark as it was on PS1. And you might be confused, what the hell am I talking about? They're showing the original graphics here, and they're really bright. Yes and no. Mind you, these are not the original graphics. This is their take on the original graphics as upscaled, with better camera distance, FOV, and even some of the lighting being updated, even for the original graphics. This is not how the game actually looked like back then entirely, but it's the same models and textures, okay? So, I'm really hoping, and plus, PC version of Tomb Raider 3 was bright and fine. It's the PS1 specifically that was an absolute nightmare to play. And also, save crystals. Oof, don't want to go back there. So, yeah, that's my only concern, that these new graphics will not make it more likely that you will miss out on items or not see enemies or things like that, right? I don't want it to be, again, as dark as it was in the past. Okay, so, let's go back. Yeah, graphics toggle. At any point during gameplay, including in photo mode, you can swap between the original and modern graphics. This was a feature promised back when they announced this, right? They showed it in trailer a couple of times, but it was more of a screen swiping motion for the purposes of the trailer. Honestly, other than this shot at Madubu Gorge, we haven't really seen a good example of what it looks like actually in practice. I would maybe like raw footage of Lara running or gunning and just someone pressing the toggle at the same time as that's happening to really get the sense how smooth it is, if it's smooth. If it's causing any frame rate drops, I guess we'll see on release, right? Anyway, I love what they did with Jungle, the skybox. I already loved the pink skybox in the launch trailer at the very beginning of the level. Here they gave us another shot just after finding the second secret of the level. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love the upscaled fish fountain. Reminds me of the Power Wash Simulator, Croft Manor. And yeah, all we don't see yet is just how smooth it's gonna look. And even at the fish fountain, we don't really see a good glimpse of what the water looks like. Again, one of my complaints with the original trailer was that the water looked just as it did back in 1996. This little square is the best hint we get. And the lava as well. And I'm hoping that these things really received some love, care, and attention. Talking about water, there it is. Another shot at Madubu Gorge, and you know, I appreciate the bravery and guts they had to showcase Madubu Gorge immediately, because whilst it's universally hated level because of the kayak controls, it's also one of the most gorgeous ones in the game. So they chose literally one of the prettiest levels to showcase here. Again, no Venice or Wreck of Maria Doria, but we cannot have everything. So they added some additional water effects on top of the actual water textures, as you can see, to make it feel like there's sprinkling and foam and rushing rapids, right? And the water looks good. Some people have complained that the open Lara water looks better. In this particular case, for Madubu Gorge Rapids, I disagree. I think when water is moving this quickly, it makes sense that it wouldn't be particularly reflective. Although we see a small glimpse of calm water down here, and yeah, in that case, open Lara water still looks better, but we need to keep in mind open Lara is not the same engine, right? So we'll see what the water will look like, but this is a vast improvement over this, as shown in the launch trailer. So again, we see progress being made ever since the announcement, which is awesome. Now, new models, environments, and enemies. As shown in our initial reveal, we've added new models for a consistent modern look and feel. We're excited to showcase how these PS1 environments would look with modern technologies and tools. Honestly, I have nothing new to say about the Lara model. I am in love. She looks amazing, and they were inspired by how she looks in FMVs. This has a couple of advantages. Whether you like this look or not, it's gonna make Lara look as a consistent character in between all three games. This is important because I feel the switch between Lara in Tomb Raider 1 to Tomb Raider 2, I like it, as in Lara in Tomb Raider 2 looks better, but it was so drastic, it almost seemed like it's a different person. If it wouldn't be for the same clothing, I wouldn't even recognize her. And here we're gonna know it's the same Lara, even if the clothes are gonna change. I see they went to the extra detail of changing the color of her shoelaces, because yes, in Tomb Raider 1 she had red, and here she had yellow. This is great stuff. They went through every single detail. So, love how the new Lara looks. FMV is a great inspiration. Another effect this is gonna have is when there'll be those transitions from an FMV into actual gameplay, it's gonna feel less as of a shock and more as a natural transition because of how similar Lara looks. Now, it's not going to be one-to-one, because honestly, this look is even better than what Lara looks like in FMVs, right? There, it was very early primitive FMV 3D technology still being used, very polygonal. So she actually doesn't look like FMV Lara, she looks even better, but it's the same kind of style. Now, whether they're going to do anything with the FMVs, I think it's most likely they're just going to upscale them and clean them so they look, you know, the FMVs feel like you're looking at them from behind iron bars nowadays, and I hope they'll clean them somehow so they are just easier on the eyes and better to take a look at. We'll see. Okay, her original outfits are stunning, her silhouette iconic. Need I say more? No? Let's move on. Additional updates. We love the classic look of the animations, textures, and sound effects. We've made adjustments in the modern scheme to look consistent with the updated models for a polished final look. So what they're saying here is that they made adjustments to animation, to textures, obviously, and also effects. Now, we've seen an example of the effects with the Madubu Gorge water foam, right? And also a very unfortunate one, what the fire looks like. It's terrible. I prefer actually the original fire sprites. I hope fires have also received an update, since we'll see on the release. But what interests me is the changes in animations, and to be honest, I think it's needed, and I'll explain why. Not necessarily Lara herself. All the animations they showcased in the trailer looked fine to me. Here we can see 3 different animations, they look fine for that model. But with enemies, it's a bit different. Let's look at the T-Rex, for example. The problem is that he's no longer polygonal, but the animations are identical to the original version, but slapped onto a new model. And the result is that his legs and arms just look like they're made of jelly. The movement does not look good on that model. And it's something I haven't been able to put into words when I looked at the trailer originally. But there's something not right about that. And let me even show you a screenshot. Actually, maybe from the Steam page it will work. Let's go back to the remasters. There is a screenshot showing a wolf from the caves level, and there is exactly the same problem. There it is. See, maybe human enemies will not have this problem, but the animals' limbs just look like they're made out of jelly. And that's because their limbs look more realistic and smooth, but they're applied onto the same animation skeleton as the polygonal ones. Whereas in the polygonal ones, you could see the exact borders between each piece that they're constructed from. Here, not so much, and it creates this uncanny jelly effect, right? So I'm hoping that when they mention making some touch-ups to the animations, this is what they're talking about. But honestly, I'd be surprised if they have the luxury of time and resources to do that. And in the nick of action and time, when you're fighting these creatures and shooting them, it doesn't matter that much. It just matters when looking at footage frame by frame, right? So this is a nitpick on my side. We'll see. What I'm really hoping is that human enemies, whom they have not yet shown us any human enemy whatsoever. They showed us a Jade Spearman, of course, which is, I guess, as close as it gets. But I'm hoping human enemies will receive similar attention to detail like Lara. Otherwise, that can look a bit off. And I can't wait for the in-engine, in-game cutscenes. Remember the cutscene when Lara was talking with with the monk, and Marco Bartoli was just observing the conversation before shooting the monk dead? Or when Marco was talking to Fabio, the airplane driver. I want to know what these will look like in new graphics, and if their faces are just gonna have one uncanny blank expression, which was fine for the time, but with facelifts that can look really creepy. We'll see. We send our admiration and thanks to the Tomb Raider community for inspiring us to work on this lovingly restored edition of Tomb Raider 1 to 3. We'll see you on February 14th, you absolutely will. Again, I'm against pre-orders, so I have not pre-ordered the game, but I will buy it day one. And yeah, this is essentially it. So, this really, what you can maybe take for granted, assuming you of course trust Aspyr and the devs, is written in this here article. I'll put the link into it in the description below, but you can also find it easily. All the other articles are essentially what I'm doing. That's my takes and my opinions on what Director of Product from Aspyr have said. So that's all they wrote, essentially. It was a very chunky information update. I hope you found it interesting. Again, I can't recommend enough just reading the article on your own pace, make your own thoughts and feelings, and then maybe check what me and others think about this. It's really interesting. Let your own thoughts ruminate. And let me know in the comments what are your hopes for features they maybe have not announced yet, or what you think about those they have announced, how you would like to see them implemented. And also I'm just curious about one thing, and that's sort of a general feeling that you guys have from the announcement. Because when the news was released that the remasters are happening, there was something like euphoria happening across the fan base, right? And I want to know if that's still the case. I want to know if hype is just as big as it was back in September, or if it's even higher, or if there's perhaps something in this information that was released that perhaps disappointed you. Maybe you expected something else. Please let me know. I'm trying to piece together a picture of what the general reception is before release, right? So that maybe we'll have something to go back to after release and think, we expected something really different, or wow, you exceeded our expectations. We'll see. Anyway, incredibly exciting. Happy about everything they mentioned there and the general design philosophy. Some things they have still not mentioned. Again, I'm worried that the new graphics will make things very dark. The problem that Tomb Raider 3 had for PS1. They have not yet showcased how flares are gonna work, and also they haven't really talked about what they're gonna do with FMVs, with in-engine cutscenes, nor if they're gonna touch up in any shape or form some of the voiceovers or music. My personal opinion, and I think that would be for the best, would be to just leave it as is. Do not change the voice acting. The, I guess, issue is that Tomb Raider 1 Lara has Shelley Blonde voicing her over, whereas Tomb Raider 2 and 3 Lara has Judith Gibbons doing the voiceovers. So even if Lara will look the same, she will sound different, and that transition might be a bit problematic, but at the same time, I would love them to respect, you know, the work and effort both voice actresses have put into it. And I'm not even talking about Jonah Elliott for Tomb Raider 4 and 5, that's a story for another day, right? So let me guys know what you think, what you would prefer in terms of the voiceovers, but again, there's not really much you can do in terms of remastering or changing FMVs, so it's very difficult. You essentially have to create them frame by frame from scratch. So what I think is most likely, they'll respect the original voice acting, they'll respect the original FMVs, hopefully visually they'll clean them up, they really need it. And I'm curious about the sound effect changes, and again, we can see many of the effects and 2D sprites were replaced by 3D sprites, some of the lighting has been improved since the launch trailer. What I would love, honestly, and this might be controversial, is to replace the Tomb Raider 1 and 2 pistol sound effects by the Tomb Raider 3 ones. The proper pistol gunfire sound effects, and maybe even the muzzle flash could be the same, I don't know. I'm sure many of you love the original ones. I am very nostalgic, especially for Tomb Raider 2, but I think the pistol sound effects are weak, and so are the ones in Tomb Raider 2. It feels like you're banging on a plastic piece of glass or something rather than firing something with a gunpowder in it, but who knows. Or maybe make it a toggleable options. We'll see. So yeah, those are literally all my thoughts, I promise. I hope you guys enjoyed this very chunky, long analysis. And yeah, again, let me know please what you think. Are you excited more? Are you excited less? I'm roughly at around the same level. I'm excited a bit more than I was after the announcement now, and I just can't wait. Being fully aware I might be setting myself up for disappointment, but everything they have released so far I think increases the likelihood that they know what they're doing, that they earned our trust and optimism, and let's hope that will actually be the case on release. Or after day 1 patch. So, thank you guys for being patient. Again, looking forward to your comments, and yeah, I'll see you next time when the games will actually release, and when I think I'll be tackling a Let's Play, maybe doing it semi-blind. Again, I'll take my old notebook, and I'll start 100%ing the levels and see how much I actually remember and how much I can find using my old notes from 2014. Alrighty then, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.